Andrew, I better make sure I got
Big job,
the
isn't it?
ball rolling on those. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit. I guess I did some stuff over the weekend, did some digging for the benefit of everybody involved. As you guys know, I've been getting the updated leases from the Register of Deeds and putting them on a map. And as of last week, we officially have wind farm leases in every township of Weemaha County.
Filed?
Filed. The only thing I'm recording, I'm gonna sit down, because I'd be better sitting. The only thing I'm recording are the filed leases. Anything that I've heard of or I've been told is lease has not been marked on the map. As of Thursday, there's roughly 54,000 acres leased in Weemaha County.
As a whole county.
As opposed to the 70,000 acres that NextEra told us that they had leased. Now, that is all companies combined. That is all of the Boulevard and Associates, Soldier Creek Wind, and Invenergy.
Does that include the leases back from 2012?
That does not include the leases that were old and have expired. So all of the ones that were originally done back in '08 are taken out of that number.
Okay.
Roughly 176 participating lessees. 176 people are individuals,
And
entities, and so forth of
That
leased
own the
property.
54,000.
So roughly less than 2% of our population has leased ground.
Sure. Okay.
Within that original red footprint, there is roughly 14 to 15,000 acres that is leased there. So-
Filed leases.
Filed leases. Now, which tells me that the majority of their ground, by far and away, is leased outside of that original footprint, which explains why they're wanting to expand their area. Now, I haven't totaled up how many acres are within the purple mark on the map there, but I can tell you there's an extensive amount of acres that are well outside of even their expanded footprint. Trying to make you guys aware of the fact that their intention is to turn Weemaha County into a wind farm.
Oh, I understand that, definitely.
Where was I going? Roughly, okay, so we got roughly 2%, less than 2% of the population of the county that's actually leased ground. Of that, I haven't gone through because I don't know, but there are a considerable number of them that are absentee landowners. So you've got a number of those that aren't even members of the community. So if you were to get $2 million per se from these companies in additional revenue for the county, then as you had said that you've got a lot of people that are supporting this because they think it's going to make their taxes go down. So $2 million is roughly 10% of our county's total budget. So let's just say that use my personal property for an example. If you reduce my taxes by 10% because you've got an additional 10% coming in, that equates to about $330 a year for my home and my farmstead. Overall, with all the holdings that I have, it's about $900 and some odd dollars that it would reduce my tax burden by. It's relatively inconsequential.
Okay. And the other thing we're striving for and trying to get the non-participating to where they get some participation from a wind farm that's going to be put in their area, if there is such a thing. And again, you know, that's where we're kind of looking right now.
And I will say, you know, speaking for myself, not necessarily for a lot of people, but it may be a lot of people, the participation on my part, I would want to have say with as to how close it is. the financial aspect of it to me is inconsequential. And the reason I feel so strongly about this is I have a couple of friends who live in the footprint of a wind farm. And one of them that lives 1,510 feet away from the closest one to his house had told me, he said, Darren, do everything you can to keep them farther away from your home than that.
I agree with that.
And he has said a mile isn't enough. He has said a mile is not enough. And mind you, the wind turbines that he is living within are roughly half the size of the ones that they're talking about putting in here.
As tall or megawatt, probably doesn't matter, but
The
height you're talking about.
The height, it's similar to what he has is similar to what is north of Berwick.
Okay.
And so when I say half the size, the blade sweep of it is half the size. And when you look at things like, if you use my section as an example, the section that I live in, there's 4 homes. All of the people that live within that section would prefer not to have a wind turbine within that section. However, there's 180 within that section that's owned by somebody that lives in Kansas City. So all of our lives could be affected by what decision that individual makes. And I'm here to say, you might be able to put one 2,000 feet from a house and one person it doesn't affect and another one it does.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be part of that experiment.
Well, none of us do.
My whole life savings went into acquiring that property and putting there what's there. And I don't want to have to start over if my family is one of those people that happens to be affected more adversely than others. And I really feel, and I put this in the letter to you guys regarding everything with unemployment statistics and so forth from other counties that have had this. I really can't emphasize enough that when we have people that live in this county that live closer to wind turbines, they're the only ones that have experience with wind turbines in this county. When they are telling us that we don't want them any closer than they already are and they're a mile away, we have to pay attention to that. And as Dennis, last week you said for the health, safety, and well-being of the community needs to be first and foremost.
And that's a trump card we have.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to tell you that I don't know how you'll get along with NextEra or anybody when you start talking about distances and all that, but I'm going to tell you one thing they can't fight with, and that's health, safety, and welfare. They will have to listen to that, and a judge and a jury, if we ever get to that far, will have to listen to that. And I think that's in our favor, and we're hoping to be able to expand on that. But
well, and as Doug said last week or several weeks ago, increasing setbacks doesn't kill a project, and they're going to use that. Everything. My mother's been funneling me articles from Reno County. They live in Mound Ridge, not far from there. They get the Hutch paper, and they keep going back to this will kill the project. This will kill the project. Well, what difference does it make if what we're getting out of this is, I mean, $1 million or $2 million sounds like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's minuscule.
yeah, compared to what 10 years, what our county's going to be, you know.
And it won't kill the project. It'll just make the project more expensive for the developers. If it makes it more expensive for the developers, that makes it more agreeable to the people that are going to be affected.
Well, it's obvious, you know, the feelings of a lot of our people in Nemaha County. I've gotten emails, and they all very explicit. They say what their option is, they say what they want to do. Some of them want to build, some of them are built, some of them, like you, have set your life savings in on it, and that's it. But at the same time, we've got, you know, the people that say, man, listen, this is my retirement. So, you know, I mean, and there's good and point, but bad, but we're working, we'd like to have some exclusion areas.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we'll get them.
Well,
You know,
and
we're just starting, and according to Mr. Neal, his original talks went well. He said and I don't suppose it hurt, but they had like 5, he said there were 7 or 8 people on his first conference call with him, and they went through some things, and so, but yeah, we give him some more pointers this morning, and all of them is, he understands that part of it. Where we're gonna end up, what we gotta do,
Well, and that's one of the questions that I have is do we need to be discussing planning and zoning for Nemaha County so that we can put some controls into this?
he says not.
And now I will say that on that topic, I've talked to
Right.
numerous people who are very, very much against planning and zoning. And several of them, after the initial argument and discussion, have come back and said, what all does it entail? How much restriction does it put on us as an operation? And what do we have to do to get it? If it's gonna, they literally have gone from, no way in hell do I want you to do this to me, to, well, if this puts some restrictions in, maybe this is something we need to look at.
Zoning is definitely an option. What we have talked about and what seems we're investigating is doing it by resolution. Have resolutions in place to limit, okay, you know, how tall we can have things, what we can do, what we can't do. In this certain area, we can't have anything. You know, this is where we're kind of leaning towards, but like I said, we're in the beginnings of all this, and the one thing that we've got to understand is whatever we do with NextEra on this agreement is going to affect the next people coming in, the next wave of windmills coming in, and NextEra's expansions. And
But without planning and zoning, do they even have to come talk to us if we're essentially sitting at the status quo? In other words, do they need to get permission from our commissioners to do anything? Or if I have an agreement with Dennis Henry to lease your property, does that give me the liberty to come in and do whatever I so please? Is what NextEra is doing right now, is it just semantics to act like we're getting along and playing along?
Yeah.
And do you even have enough control to keep them in that original footprint that was issued in the original conditional use
We're trying to
permit?
find that out, and that's what I said. We're with a big corporation, and they got big lawyers and accountants, and that's why we envisioned help, and like I said, all the information that everyone has sent to me and us, you know, is great. You know, I mean, all we can do is pass it on. We're trying and we're fighting for you.
And I will tell you, Dennis, that the people that you're hearing from is just a small sampling. There's just
I
a few
understand
people that are trying to spread this word.
I understand
And
that.
every single day, I talk to somebody that has no idea what's going on. Everybody that you talk to says, well, that's that little deal that's going on in the south part of the county. And when I show them that purple area, they're freaking out. And I haven't shared my map I've shared that map where I've mapped out all the lease locations with very, very few people. And when they see that map, it really freaks them out.
Well, and we don't know how they're thinking, you know, as I said after they originally changed that footprint, I said, well, the next one is the whole county. You don't know. I mean, we have no way of knowing what they got, but
It is,
I don't know whether this is a test or whatever, but when they start getting into the highly populated areas and they're getting close, you know, we're in trouble. But a lot of things we need to look at, and one of them you pointed out very well in your email, that's the unemployment that we have, the possibility coming down the road. How are we going to keep employment here? We're already busing people in, which, you know, part of that is because, you know, we've got abilities and we've got we've got places available for them. But we want to keep places available for them.
That's exactly right.
A lot of counties spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get industry into their county.
There's a lot of these counties that have these wind farms that are actually, they are actually, to get people to come to that county,
Sure.
they are giving you the land.
You bet. There's a lot of incentives and a lot of things and people have fought to get this. And we have groups that come in here and ask for money because they can bring us people. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wanting workers.
And they've done it. We've done it.
We need employees. We don't need necessarily, we need industry, but we need employees right now.
Yeah.
We can't take care of the industry we have, so why bring more?
We're
If you're
already
just gonna
struggling.
if you're gonna starve one industry or one place of business with all of his help's gonna move to the new one, I mean, some of that, there's two ways to look at that, but,
Yeah.
but either way, that is definitely one of our, and
We have
again,
to be able to attract the people. And we've been, Nemaha County has been very successful at that the last few years. Our unemployment trend and our population trend has been favorable for the last 5 or 6 years.
It's a wonderful
one
problem, but it's a problem.
It is a problem, but are you gonna magnify that problem if we end up with wind turbines all across the county?
well, and that's, we're, but like I said, I get emails and phone calls and I've gotten a couple of phone calls from out of the county, Marshall County, and they're complimenting us. They're saying, guys, stand up, fight, do everything you can do,
Yeah.
because these people don't care.
No.
Once they decide they're gonna put a windmill in the middle of this room, it's done. And that's the thing that a lot of the people that are participating in this situation don't understand.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of people that's called that, that don't know what to do with this contract.
And this could
And
be a
you're
very
saying-
good deal for some people.
Yeah.
For some people, but like I said, the actual number was 1.72% of the population that will have a direct financial benefit at this stage of the game, filed leases.
Yep.
1.7% of the population will have a tremendous financial, possibly tremendous financial benefit. And the other 98% of the population of the county will have a minute benefit. And I never thought I'd say this, and my wife told me, don't you dare say this, but I said that the amount that my property taxes would go down, I would be willing to pay in addition to what I'm paying now to not have them here.
You bet. Well, and we go through this time in, time out, look at school consolidations. It's a choice. Everybody's got their choice, well, we can charge more taxes and keep your school open, we can do this, we can do that. Everybody's got to make that choice of where they're going to say, draw their line in the sand, this is as far as I'm going to go, and listen, what we like, we're ready, we need to do something about it. But yeah, none of your feelings are taken lightly, I trust. I think we're committed to that. Now where can we go? There is, to completely kill the project, there's some people out there that probably would love to jump on our bandwagon and do that and try it. But the amount of money I think that would cost is just unforgivable, to even think about it. So, I don't know. We gotta go with what we got. We're doing the best we can do, and we're trying to set it up. And like I said, I think our big trump card, number one, is health, safety, and welfare. I mean, I don't think that that there's a jury in the world when you stand up there and start talking about them things, that they're not gonna listen.
No.
But now you walk up there and you say, oh, well, you know, they're only paying us $500,000. It's all monetary.
That's
I'm gonna tell you, the people will
advice.
not care. I mean, they don't care, because like you say, some situations, money is not involved.
Yep.
And so, you know, that's part of what my feeling and part of the way we're leaning, to get something resolved.
Yep.
Now, how far can we go? I don't know, but where you're saying they got 54,000 acres leased, you know, the best thing we can do is somehow try and get people that have not signed to not sign,
Yeah.
you know?
And I will tell you, talking to several people, I've got one friend who told me that 2 weeks ago he absolutely was not gonna sign, and now he realizes that one of his properties is completely surrounded, and he said, maybe if I sign this lease, at least I can get in the contract a setback from my own home.
Sure, that's right. No, people
And
get
I
boxed
hate to
in.
say that on public record, but.
People get
but that
boxed
is-
in.
That is something, and you got people that are signing leases because they feel that they're forced to.
Well, and they're,
And that isn't right. And like I said, with my situation, when you start looking at it and you go, okay, we're surrounded here, does that create this snowball effect? You've got people that actually have leased their ground that are wanting out of these leases.
yep.
And you've got that situation that's carrying on, and that takes a lot for somebody to stand up and say. I know it would be very hard for me to say that in front of somebody.
Well, we had that
hey,
issue, and that's
and-
what happened up
and-
north, you know?
And so there's so many factors that are coming in, and my biggest hope in all this is we can get something resolved, the neighbors will still be neighbors, and they'll be able to talk to each other across the fence.
Well, we do hope that, and like I said, we still, you know, we gotta respect each other's rights. And everyone has a right to do what they wanna do. I know it's always been a problem with the absentee landowners.
Yeah.
You know, people, especially if they're out of state or out of the county, you know, there is a problem there, but that's the world we live in. That's why, you know, I argued for a long time that there gotta be cost to owning land.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for a long time, there was not a lot of cost to owning land, and when the interest rates started dropping on their savings accounts, the best place for somebody in Kansas City or St. Louis or Chicago to put money is in land.
Yep.
You know, they might as well buy that and have a place that they can go. And so, you know, I always thought, you know, well, there gotta be some cost, you know, associated with it, so that it just ain't a gravy train. So that's the other thing that we gotta look at, but no, all I can say is anybody that comes up with more information, please bring it forth, and we're, to bring you guys up to speed. Next week, gonna be a very short meeting on the 26th. Probably won't go much into this at all. Mr. Neal's not coming. The 31st, we're gonna have a meeting in the morning. It's New Year's Eve. The courthouse closes at noon. We're gonna try and be out of here by noon, if it don't let us, but he is coming that morning. We will have probably an executive session again from 9 to 10 or something like that. Don't think it'll be as long as it was this morning, because of, you know, we give him our points, and we've got some homework to do and things that he wants, and so we'll continue on, but that's our plan. Okay, so you're welcome to call Mary Kay or I or Gary or Tim, you know, if you want us here on the 26th. I personally don't think we're going to have much time on the 26th from what I got envisioned now, because we got some other things going, and we've got some things we got to finish up. We've got some courthouse business that we got to have for the employees manuals and things like that we have to get done. And therefore, we'll probably be devoting a little time to that and go that way. But if somebody has something and wants it, don't be afraid. If nothing else, text us and email us, and we'll surely talk it over during the meeting. You know, that part of it's no problem. Does anyone else have anything they want to say, Doug?
I've got a question.
Dwayne?
Maybe a couple. When Darren brought up the prospect of zoning in the county, I think you said, he says not. Were you referring to Mr. Neal?
He kind of indicated that zoning is a hard thing to get in place, and there's always ways through what you write in a zone. You know, they come in and they want this zoning change, they want that zoning change. You know, you want something changed and they change it from commercial to non-commercial, and then all of a sudden you get it to where somebody, one lawyer sees an outlet and he goes. He says a resolution pretty well sets it in stone.
But they put them in zone counties.
Yeah,
So we shouldn't have rescinded
We're not.
the 2012 resolution to start
So
with.
what about the 2012 and 2016 resolutions?
well, I don't know, we're talking about that. And like I said, we may have to go to zoning, we may need to, I don't know. But I'm, right now, that was all in a conversation that I think we're more, without getting into a lot of county expense and other issues, he said it'd be a lot easier to do it by resolution and then go with the others. Because resolution, you can do a section, which zoning you can do by sections of the county also, you know, but a resolution will do the same thing, only it's a little more intact and you don't have to get quite as down to specifics. Where you get in a zone, then somebody can pick and choose and they can somehow find their way through that. You know, we see that every day here in the city of Seneca and Sabatha.
Hopefully that's the case, because that contradicts what our county attorney says. He told me directly that resolutions, and he was referring to the 2012 at the time,
No,
but that resolution.
because it wasn't done correctly.
Is an attempt at zoning. I didn't say to him, but I sure thought, well, if 2012 is null and void, then what about 2016?
Well, it wasn't done correctly, and like I said, you know, it requires more input to get it done and get it done correctly. And if we get it done, and hopefully Mr. Neal, and got him kind of looking at that along with this others, to make it work. So that's all I can say.
Another comment. So you talked about the prospect of fighting this, and I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but you came across as it potentially could cost an exorbitant amount of money.
Possible.
From my standpoint, I ask that if it evolves to that point, that you consider fighting it as opposed to rolling over like we did in 2016.
Well, and there's different situations, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Dwayne, and we are, it's a possibility. There's possibilities there, and it depends on how, you know, that we're coming with this here negotiation thing. It may come to where they say, well, listen, Nemaha County's not viable if that's the way you guys feel. Well, you know, so I don't know whether we will or not. You know, again, it's going to depend on how many acres they got and if they feel and how hard they want to play. I don't know. There's too many unanswered.
I couldn't agree with you more.
You know.
In fact, I don't, you know, I said at the very beginning when I talked to a lease agent, two of them, different companies, by the way, there are just too many unanswered questions for me,
Bet.
and there still are. And personally, I don't feel that we should risk the
Potential of Nemaha County.
The health, safety, and well-being.
Health, safety, and welfare.
of Nemaha County
Yes.
with so many unknowns.
Yes. Well,
Speaking of these resolutions, who authored the 2016 resolution?
Who what?
Who authored it? Who put it together? Was that
Would be next year,
next?
I think NextEra probably did,
the 2016 dash.
2016 document.
Wrote our county resolution.
But it was reviewed by the county
It was
attorney.
reviewed by the county
Before you guys
attorney and
approved it.
compared to other counties that had similar resolutions.
That is not very comforting to me.
I understand.
So who will write this one?
Probably Mr. Neal if he does it. You know, we're,
That's good.
kind of learn from your mistakes, but, you know, if they was mistakes, I don't know. You know, it's part of the, when you got something people want, they come after you in all ways, in all angles.
Is there a time limit, or do they have a time factor on this? I mean, the agreements to get them in place so they can start?
No,
I mean, they
I
can
don't
start-
think there's a time limit on it, and like I said, the original was this red, you know, and I thought, well, if that's where it's at and that's where it stops, it's fine, you know, but they've pretty well indicated that ain't gonna be the situation, and that's where the problems started.
Are we legally bound to that area now from some past conversations?
We're
Still trying to figure that
we're
out.
arguing that point,
You know,
very much.
we're semi-focusing on NextEra, and we've got another company in the
You bet.
north part of the county that just purchased the rights to that cross-country transmission.
Green
Green
line.
line.
Green line.
And my understanding, there was somebody that I was talking to this morning that said Invenergy's actually boring test holes.
Who was that mentioned that here a couple of weeks ago?
They said in Brown County.
Brown County.
Yeah.
Yeah, I.
For wind turbines.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, Invenergy is,
For
because
wind
they've had the
of
contract.
some sort, they are drilling test holes.
Well, they had it on the radio, and I don't know how many of you heard, but they had it on the radio that one of the commissioners, Dwight Cruz and Mr. Hill, met with Invenergy, and I'm sure it was Invenergy, I couldn't hear it, I heard it
Yeah.
twice, but I think it was Invenergy, about a wind farm in northeast Nemaha County and northwest Brown County. And I know, you know, when I heard it, I called Galen, and he right away went to KNZA to find out what was going on with that. But
And I'm assuming it's NextEra was doing some test holes or digging something outside of that original red footprint. And it pains me a little bit to talk about keeping them contained to that footprint, because there are people in the room today that live within that footprint that don't
don't
want
want
them
it.
near
I
them.
understand that, and like I said, you know, that's, we, yeah, I don't know, and
Yeah.
all we do is, we gotta go forward. We went from where we were at, and was pretty well convinced that the 2012 resolution was a total waste. You know, I mean, it solved the problem, but only because I think the company sold 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You know, I think that was in our favor there, but after that happened, why,
don't think
you know, if it would've been
that's-
next year up there, I think we'd probably had some problem.
Yeah.
They would've took us to court and won, and then where would we have been? So, possibly we're in a better position now than we was then. I don't know. But people learned a little bit from that. Now we're learning a little more. But, big companies aren't experienced to deal with. And I know I've dealt with them in all my life, and
I'm still confused why they would pick Nemaha County that has as dense a population as we do.
yeah, but and it'll be interesting, because I talked to Mark, is it Mark?
Big Mark or Little Mark?
Big Mark. this morning again, and he is working on this density thing. I asked him about it specifically, and he says
You
we
got the
are.
numbers.
So, I know, but anyway, it'll be very interesting to see if his numbers come somewhat close to what you found, you know, and they should. But anyway, I did ask, and they was here this morning at 9 o'clock and was first part, and then they had a noon engagement, so they had to go, but they will be here. They said they was gonna be here the 26th, didn't they? And the 31st, I think. But I don't remember for sure what they said, but anyway.
What time will they be here on the 26th? What time were they told on the 26th?
They're not coming the 26th. right?
I don't
Sarah?
think
Oh, I'm
so.
sorry, I thought you meant the
I
attorney.
thought,
I'm sorry.
I don't remember whether he said or not. We'd have to call him. I'd have to call or text him and find out for sure.
Maybe
But
just Mark was gonna be here or something.
Mark or one
I
of
don't
them,
remember.
one of them was gonna be here. They said there'd be somebody at all our meetings, so I,
Are they on the agenda then?
no, they're not on agenda. They just come in as observer. And like I said, you don't have to be on our agenda to speak or be with us, because we don't approve an agenda. So we're not like the school board where, you know, you either sit and then you're only giving them 5 minutes to talk. But we elected to go this way, and we hope we can continue to go that way.
And I understand you may have to change that at some point.
Oh,
I've seen some of the stuff within Reno County,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
no way you guys would be able to function.
well, if we get into, you know, where we got a lot of 3-hour conversations like this, it's hard to agenda around them.
Yeah.
Either that or put you at the end, and then we're at your mercy, but that's fine. You know, we're here for you, we're your representatives. And,
I'll try to keep my hole shut.
no, not really.
Oh, we don't wanna shut anybody up.
No, I'll tell you what, but I will tell you that many times, my older brother told Case IH and International Harvester that, listen, as a private individual, I have a right to determine where I want to spend my money and how much of it I want to spend. And they'd slam the book shut and say, well, see, we're not going to sell you a bunch of tractors today, and walk out. And I mean, I can tell you, he was very animate about that, and you guys are in the same situation, kind of.
I'll
You know,
reference that.
you have that, and you've got your right as your own individual to do, and that's good, you know.
I'll go back to my argument before, that you guys were in the situation that you wanted what they had. And you guys are in the situation that they want what you have.
Mhm.
We are in a
Absolutely.
negotiating seat.
Yep. And like I said, we're in negotiation, and I think he's made some progress. And like I said, he indicated there were 4 or 5 lawyers on the phone with him, and 2 accountants, and then him and Brad, so. But we'll have to see. Has anyone, 2 people called me this last week and said that there is solar test plants coming into Nemaha County.
I heard that. I don't know where I heard it.
Has anyone seen or heard of any of this? Now, one of them said it was on Bob Kowaki's land, out by south of Baileyville somewhere, and there's another one someplace else, but they said they're strangest looking things you ever seen.
They're a little gray. I had a good phone call the other day that asked me about those, and it might be something, just go ask one of the guys that's got it on their farm. But it's like a gray, almost looks like, the first time I saw one, I thought it was like a feeder of some sort, because it's cone shaped with a solar panel on one side, and I don't know if that has something to do with a solar deal, or if that's some sort of instrument that
Wind farms or
can
something
use
else.
radar to measure wind currents or what.
But anyway,
I don't know what those are.
I mean,
but they're
there's
scattered around the
there's other
county.
things that we're, you know, and so, like I said, if we go into a resolution, you know, because I don't think 78,000 acres in Nemaha County covered with solar panels is is very attractive either.
No.
You know.
Because they don't make much noise.
They don't make much noise.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know.
But I tell you, it's another big company that
Yeah.
just does what they want to do. I think that's the big thing you got to be careful of.
And I had a visit with some people I know from down Pittsburgh last week, and very, very animate against wind power. And I've invited him to come up to talk, and hopefully I can get him here. And if he does, why, you know, I'll try and put the word out, because he's been against us for 20 years. He's been fighting wind power for 20 years. And he knows you don't have to strike his match twice, you know, and he's ready to talk. And that's good, you know, but.
Linda had a
I
question.
just have a question, just because I'm not knowledgeable. Okay, when they talked about leases that were filed, and some of them were back, how soon do they have to file a lease, and then how important is that in the county? I mean, I don't know anything about it.
They had it, yeah.
That's, and I don't know what the document date means on the lease registration or whatever they call it, but there's some stuff that the document date was in, like April and May of 18, but it wasn't actually filed until last week. So that's where I don't know, with the map I've been putting together, the acres I gave you guys this morning, that was all through last Thursday afternoon when I stopped in and got the most recent ones. But, you know, I don't know if that means that they're just sitting on these and waiting to file them, or if they're still having to get, I don't know how that whole process works, so I don't.
think we need to.
You know, the thing that really struck me was that, okay, NextEra was in here and told you guys that we have 70,000 acres leased. And we had, and I don't remember if they said they had enough to get to 100,000, or if they had 100,000 more that was ready to be signed. But they're almost 20,000 short of what they told you they had already. And
Maybe they don't want
when-
us to see that.
whenever I'm dealing with somebody,
Well, they don't.
I look at credibility of what they're telling me. And-
Well, and there's a reason why we're the last people on the pole that they're talking to. The landowners are the first people they talk to in Nemaha County, you know, and ever since then, it's just been, you know, we're the last ones they come to talk to, and there's a reason why that is.
So that
You know,
picture could be a
because,
little bigger.
number one, you know, if somebody signs their farm up, they're not gonna go to the coffee shop and brag about it. It just don't happen. You don't hear that.
They just brag to a neighbor about that.
They might, but they might not too. You know, most of them, you know, are just pretty content, you know, and a lot of people are just, listen, this is my business, it's within mine, and that's where it's gonna be, and that's fine. But many of us need to talk to your neighbors and people, and I don't know how many people I've told. I said, listen, if you're even considering this, you need to be talking to everybody within 2 or 3 miles of you. You know, that, if there's one thing you can do, you need to talk.
Now, along with those lines, I've had several people tell me, in talking to them, that they're under the impression that they're isolated. And then they're, you know, this whole idea of they're gonna sign and take the poor windmill company's money and everything's gonna be okay. What do we have in place as a county to limit, or that, it goes back to the road and bridge agreement, it's in part of the pilot program. But if we don't have a pilot program, what keeps them from going down the ditches or?
Like Invenergy, so to speak, they haven't communicated with their commissioners.
Right.
If they proceed, where is your recourse as the county?
Can they go down, can they go through our ditches, is my question, can they take their lines through our ditches?
I don't, they should not be able to, no.
I don't know that either, and so.
I don't think they can, because that'd be our right of way, but no.
Well, you would sure think, but that's one of my
Big
questions.
Mark told Dwayne and I last week that they have to have lease agreements to cross. In other words, if they've got, the way he explained to Dwayne and I, if they've got this leased and this leased, but not this and this, to get to here, they either have to get a lease agreement with these people, or if they have it with these, they have to go all the way around. He said they cannot go catty corner underneath that road. That's what he told Dwayne and I. Now, at the same time, as I've referenced many times, what they say doesn't matter unless it's in writing. So whether you can count on that or not, I don't know. But he did tell us that they have to have lease agreements with any property
Well,
they cross to get from point A to point B.
But I think you need to differentiate between a lease agreement for that, in that example, the whole quarter, or a simple
Easement
easement,
agreement.
30-foot wide to get from section 12 to
Yeah.
13.
Which they have done in
Which then they'd
instances.
be glad to pay any,
To do
Tie
that.
in, yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah, they would have to have some type of easement agreement to go across your
Yeah.
corner to get, yeah.
But what Dennis is saying, I will tell people, it is very important to talk to your neighbors. I was with a lady on Thursday evening who was distraught because she thought that she was totally surrounded and had been led to believe so because she caught a glimpse of the leasing agent's computer screen, and there was this property in the middle with green all the way around it that she assumed was leased ground. And so I told her, I said, I don't believe that they are, based on my map, if they've leased it, it hasn't been filed yet. So she got on the phone and found out that nobody around her had signed that lease.
No,
So-
they tell you everything you wanna hear, you know.
And I'll tell you, and I'll be as candid as I can be, I've talked to several people that signed a lease, didn't know what was in it, and now wish they wouldn't have. And that drives me crazy, but there's nothing any of us in this room can do about that.
Yeah.
And the thing that you get into, and a lot of them don't understand, and it goes back to the, when these people lease your land, if they decide to put a
It's theirs.
windmill out in the middle of your section, how they get to it is not, it's whatever they wanna do. If they wanna run over grandma's gooseberry bush, why, they're gonna run over it. You know, I mean, it's gone. I mean, that's part of the deal, because you leased it to them, and it's the 90-year deal, and I'm gonna tell you what, that's a long time.
It's a legally binding document.
That's the irony of being unanimously opposed to zoning.
Yeah, but anyway, no, and if anybody wants to investigate this zoning versus resolution thing, you're welcome to do it, help us out. I've been doing as much research as I got time to do, and
I got 6
And
zoning
see-
resolutions printed on my desk, if
But-
anybody wants to take a turn at one.
I guess my question,
I mean, of which would be the best way to go.
Yeah.
as a citizen of Pima County, what level of confidence do you have in Niels, the attorney that you hired?
Pretty much a lot more than I had previously with Dennis, Gary, and Tim. But, no,
I think
No, I
it's
mean-
important that, I think it's, I mean, I've met
Granted-
him, I've talked to him, he
In the
seems like
end-
he wants to help us,
yeah,
but
I think he does, and he understands. And the thing he's got is he's got a law firm that's not just a tiny law firm, he's got big. And he's got people in behind him that are professionals, and they understand what's going on.
I did hear him say this is the first time he's been on the other side of the
Yes,
fence, and I'm
it
trying to
is.
sort out in my mind
Yeah.
what that means.
Yeah.
If he really is glad he's on this side finally, or if
Yeah.
he's
I know.
gonna get paid a lot more because he's gonna settle something.
No,
than he's on
yeah,
the other
you
side. Something-
you often,
clothing
I
type
I think
deal.
those are excellent questions.
You're often suspicious.
You've known him for what,
But-
all of 2 to 3 weeks?
but
and-
one thing we do is, he's providing us with what he's coming up with in negotiations, so.
I will also say, I was involved here when they were on the conference call with him, and I felt really good about what I was hearing. And he also came as a recommendation from somebody that I have a lot of respect for in the community,
Yeah.
which
And I'll say this, I didn't have lunch with him, but I had a half hour with him at McDonald's, and I felt like he really has Nemaha County's interest. I think he has some really good things that maybe he can help us with. So I'll say that too.
Yeah.
Just, I don't,
No, it ain't something you wanna just close your eyes to.
no, I think that's what I'm saying.
I ain't gonna just close my eyes and say, yeah, that's great, that's the way, and this morning, he asked us, he says, you tell me what you want in here. You tell me what you want for setbacks, how much money you want, what do you want, how do you want it? And he says, my recommendation is this, this, and
That's
this.
already given in though.
Huh?
Telling him what money we want, what setbacks we want, all that, that's already given in.
Well,
I mean,
we don't know if it is or
You're
not.
talking the talk,
Yeah.
and you're also, I understand sticking up for an underdog, but the underdog is 2% or less.
Yep.
And one of the first things you said when we came in was implied that if they could just buy everybody off. We don't want bought off.
Uh-huh.
We don't want 1 red cent. We do not want the windmills. And I feel sorry for the 1.5%.
Sure.
And some of those are the ones that say they don't even want it now.
Yep.
So don't be too hasty to negotiate, because we don't want to negotiate.
Okay.
We don't want it. Don't let the lawyer know we want to give in and get as much as we can out of it. That's no way to start.
I'll throw in a little bit on that within my map. And I pointed this out to you guys last week, that when you look through it, there are people that are leasing ground that obviously don't want it either. Now, I will also restate this, that maybe these leases just haven't been filed yet, but you have numerous leases where the property that person lives on is not leased, but their farms that are away from where their home is leased. So even people who want wind turbines
Know the fear of it.
don't want them close to their home.
They know.
Now, that isn't exclusive. There's a lot of leaseholders that have their home places leased, but there are also numerous ones that have not leased the property that is closest to their home. And to me, that speaks volumes. That is the megaphone in your ear of how badly do they really
Yes,
want
sir.
it.
I've been asked to speak for multiple people. I'm the perfect example of our future of our county, where I grew up in Bern. My name's Pat Sheep, by the way. But I grew up in Bern, went to K-State, moved back 3 years ago, and moved back for the intention of, I knew our county, I knew our school reputation. I didn't want to raise my family in, no offense, Manhattan or Kansas City. I wanted to be back here. Since coming back, I went through the battles. I know it actually hits home with you guys too, personally. The battles of trying to find ground and try to build that home that I want to live in. You go through the battles of, number one, finding the ground. Secondly, finding the utilities and the means of actually building a house in that location. The spots in red, or the spots in purple, is actually about where I started getting pushed out to, all the way from Sabetha. So looking in that Sabetha burn area, I'm looking all the way by the Nemaha County dump and Oneida and that area, and that's after talking to several landowners in the county. Would I build my house today if I knew that? Then I built 3 miles straight south of Sabetha. Would I build my house there today the way I did if I knew that wind turbines are possibly going across the road for me, or even in my vantage point? No, I would probably built in a hole where I can't see the things. So it's just something, not to beat the dead horse, but it's something where honestly it's been a factor to consider on even moving back here. If I move back here and know that this county's full of wind turbines, and the ground that I would want to build a forever home at was either already spoken for, or I had no possibility, I might not move back to the county, and let alone a new KSI employee, or some of our industry guys that are coming back here. They're not going. If they want to look at those things, they're going to stay in Kansas City and look at sky rises.
And Starbucks is 2 blocks away.
We all share that, Pat, and same with me. When I graduated from K-State, I had the choice. I could have went to CPA firms all over Dallas, Denver, wherever I wanted to go. But I said, no, I took a third of the money and come back to Seneca, Kansas because I had a daughter. I said, we want to raise our kids in this community and this is where we want to be, and it's been part of my community.
Right.
So your words are not taken lightly, not to me. I was, feel strongly about it. We did put the bug in Mr. Neal's ear about, is there a possibility to kill this thing? We did talk about that this morning. I will not, and he said he'd kind of look into it, I think, maybe. But he thought there was other ways to do the thing. So we'll keep working on it. It's a working process. Try and keep you all informed as we can.
Another thing to keep in mind while you're talking setbacks is to remember property lines. Of course, I'm sure that's part of the discussion if you are at that point.
Well, we talked property lines, and then not only that, but, they was talking roads.
Good.
How far from a road? Well,
Long way.
we've got power lines that are, what's a road? Where, is it the center of the road, the east side of the road, the west side of the road, or, when a bunch of lawyers just look at a term says road, well, that, to me, could leave a lot open. But, so we got into the right-of-way easements, the closest right-of-way easement from their back. In other words, if KP&L's got a power line through there, we're gonna go from their back, to keep, so that if the windmill falls, it ain't gonna cut power to everybody or do something like that.
And I've seen a main fall off of one, so I know it can happen.
Sure, oh, yeah.
So, but I still got a question. So they have to have those resolutions, or they have to have those agreements all in place. Can't you drag those things out for 4 or 5 years?
He kinda indicated we could drag it out some, but they had to have this resolution. The only reason they had to have this resolution is because of the lifetime exemption on property tax. That's the only reason. Next year, Invenergy has never been here. They don't have a resolution.
Oh, I see.
Well, they can do it without the property tax
Yeah.
exemption.
Well, they got tenure.
They've got them in Nebraska.
Yeah, they've got,
Now, do they have to get a conditional use permit from the county to get that tenure? Or is that just automatic? And that's,
I don't know.
Randy, you were gonna
I know
look
they
into.
still have to go before the Board of Tax Appeals,
I would
but I
think
don't
they
know
still
if they have to
have
have this conditional use permit or not with the county.
I would think they would, because they're gonna use the roads and they're gonna use everything else every time anywhere they go.
sure, well, you would think,
I mean, unless they can get it through the townships, but I can't imagine.
but I can tell you that as far as I know, Invenergy has not been in this office.
No.
That has to be something that needs to be discovered as to whether or not they have to have a conditional use permit in order to come in at all, but also, I think it's really important as to whether or not they even qualify for the tenure tax exemption without that conditional use permit.
Are we communicating with the township commissioners as well on this thing? So that, so something don't slide in under the wire just through the township commissioners that they're not aware of?
Township trustees.
Or the trustees, yeah, township trustees, because I think that's a loophole that they could maybe get right past some of these things if it's just a road use thing.
I doubt we could communicate with all of them and make sure that none of them, if any of them has had contact with them, they need to be contacting us.
Well,
Yes. I think so.
That's a good idea. They
And-
might,
Yeah, and will, but we don't have anything definitive yet
No,
to
but-
go to them with.
No, you just need to ask them, if they hear, if somebody's coming to them, they should be contacting you.
I think that would be a good thing to do, because I know there's one township board member that Invenergy has, one of the two companies has tried to be in contact with him,
sure.
and he doesn't want anything to do with them, so he hasn't returned their calls, so.
Been in
Okay.
contact as far as leasing his property, or
They have contacted him by reason that he is the chairman of that
from an
township.
official standpoint, if
From
you
an
will?
official
Yeah,
standpoint. And he's refused to take their calls.
yeah.
Dennis, Gary, I was gonna make this comment, but I changed my mind. So earlier, Dennis, when you made the, referring to your discussion with, this morning, between Mr. Neal, yourselves, and and next area representatives. I think you used the terminology, if the discussion went well. Now, maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but it wouldn't have hurt my feelings at all if you'd have said the discussion didn't go with the damn they hung up the phone. Honestly, it concerned me a little when I hear that the discussion went well, because anything that goes well for them, I don't.
So what you're saying, Dwayne, is when I walk in this courthouse on Monday morning, I got a big NO on my hat and I don't listen to anything else, and I just said, no.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, I'm just probably ultra sensitive.
I understand, but at the same time, I've dealt with people, and I don't feel like building a wall is a good way to communicate.
And that you're probably absolutely
You know,
right on that.
that's my opinion, but.
No, I don't think I would do that either if I was in your shoes, but I'm
But
just,
I think that he has our best interest at heart, and we're gonna see, because he's not gonna, he can't agree to anything without our permission.
I think
So
that's-
he can come up with what he thinks, here's the best terms I can get. And in the bottom of my heart, I almost feel like that the three of us could have come to the same terms. But we don't know. And that's why I think we need this outside help. It's gonna be interesting to see what it does and how it does. But we've already unleashed some knowledge that we didn't have, and ways of communicating, and I think we'll just have to see where it goes. That's all I can do.
And I don't know who it was, it's maybe, and I don't know if questioned his integrity is the right thing right way to put it, but because Mr. Neal did represent other big companies, I thought in my mind that was good. He's been on the other side, he kind of knows maybe how those guys work, how they think, to me, that was good. Now, that's me. But.
And the thing is, he's been on the other side, but not representing this specific thing. So in other words, he doesn't have a conflict of interest. So.
I think he's the right guy.
I do too.
I'm gonna tell you, I'll say it, I think he's the right guy. You gotta have somebody, and you can't close the door on him, because you gotta use.
Well, no, and the thing we don't want to do, and we got to be very careful with our knowledge and what we say, and that's why I hate to say anything, because we don't want to thwart his ability to, to go to this and negotiate. He's got to have the confidence that we got confidence in him, and he's going to do it. And he said it's just like, you just can't put too many cows in the pasture. He said, because if you do, it ain't gonna work.
And I'll say that, and if the cows are the windmills, I think 40 years ago, when I came here from Illinois, I mean, there was no rural homes out that had expanded immensely, and I've shared it in my letter. I don't think we need to stop right here and not think about what the next 40 years can do for our community.
Well, and we need places for our kids and grandkids and everybody else to live, and in 20 years, will they want to, or in 5 years, will they want to? We need to have the choice. I mean, there's a lot of good things can happen out here, and if we can get families to move in here, number one, it helps our schools. We need to keep good, viable schools, and we get better teachers, and everything that we can get is a benefit to us. So, but we will continue to struggle, but it's, like I said, it's not easy. And we'll have to see where it goes. If I don't know how, we have no idea what it's going to turn out to be. Have no idea. And I mean, it'd just be, if I had a good glass or crystal ball, why, I'd be the top of the notch, but I'd be a better bingo player than I am right now. But that's the way it is. But I want to thank you all for coming in. Like I said, we're open, be afraid, and we will try and do the best we can do. Like I said, we're definitely getting some information and feedback, and I know that a lot of people, you know, are strongly against it, and rightly so. You know, if your livelihood's involved with it, it's gotta be there. Now, why the state of Kansas and the government decided, you know, that this lifetime energy benefit is there, well, I don't know. You know, you can't get many answers out of that. Nobody seems to. All we ever see is President Obama shaking hands with NextEra's president, you know. So, you know, that kind of bothers me when I see things like that. But but it's part of America.
Yep.
It's what makes us great. We're going to continue to be great. I have a problem with that.
So we're off next Monday?
Yeah.
We're off next Monday. We're going to be here
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Take a day off, will you, Doug?
I would say, if you want to come, you're welcome. I don't have a problem. You're welcome to come.
the road somewhere.
Yeah, right. Thanks, man, for all your work.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Linda, for coming in.
Be good, Linda.
Challenge, I will.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.